Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Asea 5. We took last week off, and hopefully you guys joined us at the webvention. It was really exciting. We're going to share some of the information from that tonight. But just so you know who we are, if you haven't tuned in before, I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, and we're joined by Jim Glenn and his beautiful wife, Ann, from San Antonio, Texas.
Hello
Jim
there.
is our financial expert, and Ann is a nutritional expert. And then we have Dr. Lee Osler, who is an incredible dentist from the state of Washington. And we're joined today by one of our, and he's a brand new member of the Medical Professionals Board. And our special guest tonight, Dr. Carmen Keith, is also a brand new member. I'm going to let Jim give her bio because he has all of the deets, but both of them will be joining me on the Medical Professionals Board with Asea. So we're so excited about that and honored to have them as part of our board. So before we get started, let me tell you what we're doing here. We're going to talk a little bit about the breakthrough of redox signaling molecules. Now, this is not, even though we're heavy with medical professionals on this show, it is not a medical product. We are not here to treat or diagnose or cure anything. What we do is teach people about a supplement that actually helps their cells work better. So it helps your body do what it knows how to do, which is to heal itself. And so we'll be talking a little bit about the power of these molecules and how we've used them, what we've seen happen in our own lives and with the people that we share them with. So without further ado, Jim, tell us about Dr. Carmen Keith.
This is a long thing. Carmen has got so much experience. She's absolutely amazing. Dr. Keith, her wisdom and insight into the world of health and wellness is matched only by her heart of compassion for the people she desires to help so they can achieve their life purpose and pass on a legacy of health and wellness to their future generations. After attending the University of Arkansas, what's that call sign that you guys do over there, Carmen? Are you allowed to do it?
Pig.
Uh-huh.
They
Come
raised
on, say it.
I can't do it loud, Jim. Whoopie.
Sorry, I had to throw that in. After attending the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences College of Medicine and graduating with honors in research, she began her training, completing an anesthesia residency. Dr. Keith then furthered her education at Harvard. Maureen, can you say Harvard real quick?
Harvard.
Thank you.
I'm married at
Harvard Medical School. Say the whole thing.
Harvard Medical School.
Okay, thank
That's
you. For
the only word that I say, Boston.
Hey, be quiet. I'm trying to read this. Completing a fellowship in pain management at Massachusetts General Hospital. Following her fellowship, Dr. Keith became double board certified in anesthesiology and pain management through the American Board of Anesthesiology. She is also an Institute for Functional Medicine certified practitioner. Dr. Keith's career has encompassed positions such as Assistant Director of Pain Medicine and Medical Director of Pain Management Center. Dr. Keith founded the 360 Living, a functional medicine practice, and authored You Are Worth Your Health. She currently lives in El Paso, Texas, and is associated with You Thrive Clinics, which she continues to practice functional medicine. Awesome. I got through it.
You made me blush, Jim.
That was awesome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Can you tell we have a good time, everybody? I love this group. It's so fun.
I want you to know that they keep rubbing it in that you have a third certification. Like, I'm going to have to go back and get certified in something.
You have it too.
Hey, no, you're here. Maureen's down here. I'm sorry, Maureen. Come on.
Not listening.
But Lee, where are you?
Well,
we got the stepping stones.
I'm not even going to go there.
Lee's brilliant. Lee's brilliant.
Like the Dr. Hayes. It was so interesting how we thought our paths might have crossed because I interviewed down in Galveston for my pain fellowship when you were there.
Yeah, I could have been your trainer. How about that? Wouldn't that have been?
Yes.
Awesome. So, yeah, but you know what? Incredibly impressive resume. My husband is a Harvard grad, and he also trained in anesthesia at Mass General. So, very familiar Yeah, and we probably know a lot of the same people because I did my training at UMass, which was down the road.
Right.
In the not Harvard University.
And then you went to Galveston.
And then I wanted to go back south. So, but we both had the same kind of idea, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that. Because, my path was very similar in that I felt like some of the stuff that I was doing wasn't really taking care of patients the way I wanted to, which I believe is kind of your journey as well, because you went into functional medicine. So if you can explain, because not everybody knows what functional medicine is, and it's a little divergent or integrative from what we do as regular MDs. Mm-hmm. So explain that a little bit, and explain how that led you into Asea, or how you got
Sure. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Love to blow when I travel. Yes. Hi, Dawn. Yes. Okay. So as kind of life would have it, I guess I kind of go back and say, how did I know I wanted to be a doctor? I believe in higher callings, and I was called to be a doctor when I was 7 years old. And I didn't really understand what that meant, but I just knew that that's what I was destined to be. I took, the opportunities that were given to me and smarts, and just kept trucking or applying and taking exams, as we understood, right, Maureen? But I came a point, let me think about this, how many years ago? It's been about almost 12, yikes, years ago, that I was diagnosed with a common American problem. And I had a choice to make whether I wanted to treat that problem with the traditional pills and etc., or did I want to go this other route? And I didn't even know what the other route was. I just said, you know what? I don't want pills. I don't want this. But I knew I was feeling kind of crummy. I just thought it was because I had baby twins at the time. They were about 2. And I, had given my soul over to this thing called medicine as a doctor. And we're just supposed to work all the time and be tired all the time, right? I mean, that's what we did during training, and that's what we're just supposed to be doing. And I got a little frustrated with that because I had nothing left over to give my family. Well, as it would have it, a book entered my life that started teaching me about what I put in my mouth really could affect my numbers and my labs. And I kid you not, Maureen, I was reading this book in my closet with a blanket. It was a pink Minnie Mouse blanket over my head, thinking, is lightning going to strike me? Because I have never, this was all woo-woo about food and health, and what do you mean it matters? Because we didn't have nutrition training, and vitamins, they were just like ABCs, right? Like, whatever. You're an American.
Stop you. You didn't have, because you're much younger than I am, and you still weren't getting trained on nutrition?
Nope.
I mean, it was ridiculous. I had one day in a scope book with some pictures in it.
Yeah. Vitamins were just alphabet soup, and, there was no credence given to it at all. And so I thought, well, I'm kind of in a situation where I'm determined to help myself get healthier. Keywords there, help myself. And so that's really what changed. But I will tell you, though, that I did try the traditional diet and exercise approach that we were taught to do. Let me take one hair back. And I tried it for about 9 months. And I am happy to report to you that I had zero change, zero. My numbers didn't change. My weight didn't change. Nothing changed. And that's when the book fell in my lap, and I started. And, I said, you know what? I'm going to give myself a month to read the book. But first, I'm going to turn to the back where all the recipes were. And I'm just going to go in my kitchen and just follow directions, right? And not even think about it. And my numbers started improving really within a couple weeks. Yeah. My sleep started getting better, and just overall, I felt better. I used to have a headache, get this, every day at 2 o'clock, I had a headache. And I would carry a Tylenol in my white coat, and every day at 2 o'clock, I would just take the thing. One day, I said, I don't have a headache. Well, key there was I started listening to my body and trusting my body. And I have not had a headache at 2 o'clock, having to require Tylenol since. Now, with that, functional medicine entered my life on a walk in the neighborhood when I was listening to, whatever I was listening to, and an ad popped up, and I was sure clickbait for it. It said, "Do you have a functional doctor?" I had no clue what that. I was like, "I'm a functioning doctor. Like, what is this?" So I clicked on it, and it took me to the Institute of Functional Medicine, where I learned functional medicine and integrative medicine are very, very, very similar, and anti-aging and the rabbit hole goes on. But it was just a governing board that offered a certification and more education. And I mean, as a physician, we're lifelong learners and we're educators. And so I felt it was, an interest really that then turned into part of my overall mission in life. And so I started learning all of this, and I was still working in the pain center, doing everything I did and helping people. I mean, we help people with what we do, but I had more and more people asking me, "Is there something else besides a steroid shot you can do for me? Is there something else besides, these other pills? Do you know anything about vitamins?" And it kind of got to the point where I said, I've got to meet the demand of what people really are asking for. And so that plunged me into continuing just that education piece. As the story goes, I felt a higher need to get out there and really provide that to my patients and the community where I was at that point. And so that is when I decided to set up my own functional wellness practice there. And it's within that practice that Dr. Ann Ools walked in with a little tube of Asea Renew 28 telling me, Dr. Keith, this has helped me. Sorry, she probably called me Carmen. This helped me. And I said, oh my goodness, I really have to figure this out. And so the trajectory of my life and Asea was perfect intersection, because she didn't know, like a lot of people probably watching, nobody really knows where you're at in your life and what your needs really are. And you might not even know what your need is until it presents itself. And maybe something about Asea or something about our the convention this last weekend has really spoken to you. And for me, this has been a journey for myself, but for the people that I've been able to help by saying yes to Dr. Ann's, look at this, you have to look at this. And so I studied it for about 3 weeks, and then I started taking it, and I was like, I feel great. My energy was starting to go up again, and my sleep was better. I have trouble with brain fog. When we think a lot, we got problems with brain fog and my family history. But I started letting my mom use it, and then from there, my dad. So I don't know if this is when you want me to tell that story or not, but, she did not know that my dad was super, super ill at that time. And she did not know the prayers I was praying for something just to come into my life, in my brain, can I have some more knowledge? Is there another way? And so that's how it came into my life. I will reserve my dad's story for a little later. But functional medicine is simply trying to get to the root of the issues. But functional medicine is bit geared more towards, not the tip of the iceberg, but the 90% of the problem that lies beneath the water. That's where we really dig. And we're able to help people who really have not been able to find help anywhere else. We sit there and we listen. And then from there, there's specialized testings we do. But as we know, the life of our body is in the single cell. And when we talk about functional medicine, it's a lot of biochemistry work at the cellular level. And Asea just made sense for me to start incorporating because of what it does at the cellular level.
That's fantastic. Now, another doctor brought it to you. I had been approached by a couple of people, but my sponsor is actually from the business world. And so, you know, when he was talking to me about something and I found out it was made from salt water, even though I was somewhat integrative in my practice and did energy medicine and acupuncture, mind, body, all of that stuff, I did not embrace, I did not embrace the product immediately. It took me a little while. But, you know, the study of it is so fascinating. Redox biochemistry is very compelling.
Mhm.
It was not anything that was taught. I don't know about when you went to medical school, but when I went, I graduated 30 years ago. So, you know, no, they weren't talking about that. But, you know, we're back to the Krebs cycle. So it took me, it sounds like you kind of caught on to it pretty quickly. And did you start using it with your patients in your practice?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So the Renew 28 gel really was what I started using quickly. And I'm so excited that we now have a indication on it for muscle discomfort. But using that in practice helped so many people. And quickly, it works really fast. And it's mind-boggling, really.
Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the claims that they now will, you know, allow us kind of take the gloves off so we can share some of the information?
Sure. So I don't break any rules. I will bring up my photo here. But, you know, it's so exciting to know that we have an option that works effectively, safely, and quickly, right? Of course, you know, let me get here it is. Okay. So I loved, and I'm just going to read from convention slide, you know, it's not another face cream, right? It's actually a gel. And it is skin priming, age fighting, cellular rejuvenating gel for your whole entire body that transforms you from within. And so for skin priming, it can help to reduce the appearance of cellulite and wrinkles, enhancing skin texture and smoothing the skin. Skin recovery, helping soothe the skin from discomfort from disturbed skin, such as after shaving or after sun exposure. Helps soothe muscle discomfort. That is huge. And cell renewal. So the active redox signaling molecules support accelerated surface skin cell renewal for younger looking skin. And you know, all of us that use it, I didn't take my before and after 28 days, but I do know that I get a lot of questions, what's your skin routine? And I loved what you talked about, Dr. Hayes, at convention about it being simple and safe.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, those of us who work crazy hours, you know, I can remember, I mean, it's just terrible to admit, but sometimes as a resident and even as an attending, you know, you don't have time to go through all of those different regimens and, you know, put on 10 different products. And I can remember running through the hospital, grabbing an alcohol pad and wiping it on my face, and like the worst thing you can possibly do. You know, it's going to make every problem, you know, more magnified. So yeah, so I was not good. This is probably the first skincare system that I have religiously used. And, you know, Anne, jump in here as another woman. I don't know, guys, I don't know if you guys use it or not. I mean, you certainly can. It's a unisex product. It's not, you know, it's not flowery smelling or anything like that. But the results are really impressive, I think. So
yeah. Definitely. I like when Nancy Walker shared a couple of Wednesdays ago about the skincare. I learned even some new things about the ingredients that are in our moisturizer and the need for it. And the cleanser, I know Jim loves it to shave with, keeps away that ring around the collar. So I know he uses it faithfully every day. And you don't require a toner when you're on our regimen. You cleanse your skin, then you get your redox, and then of course I love the serum, and then you end it with the moisturizer. How simple can you get? And of course it's all safe. Right. I do love how you shared it at convention. That was very well done.
Yeah, you know, the cleanser is absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite things. It smells like candy. You know, I just love using it in your skin. your skin just feels so good. And it's a cleanser, it's a toner, and has a exfoliant in it. You know, it has the sugar cane and sugar maple in it, and alpha hydroxy acid. So, you know, it does a ton of work for being a cleanser. And then, of course, like you said, then we do the 2 Redox products, which are amazing. And then the moisturizer is really an incredible product in and of itself. I'm never without. In fact, here it is, right? You know, so I mean, it's got a probiotic in it. It feeds the skin. It's got, it's got a molecule that actually attracts oxygen to your skin. So that's why you get that youthful kind of glow with it. You know, which is why I use quite a bit. So I mean, yeah, if you can tell, I love these products. So, Dr. Keith, take back over.
No, I agree. I mean, I would say I've tried many of face care products, and I love the key is gentle exfoliation. You know, there's not grit, and you don't end up with a red face after you exfoliate. You don't even really notice, but I absolutely love it. And it's astonishing how even all of this, you know, we're in a day and age where we want to have as few ingredients as possible on the labels, right? And all of these things, natural ingredients, real living ingredients, but simple, talk about simple. Yes, salt and water from Salt Lake City, but not the Great Salt Lake, right? But it's funny. Some people and some of you watching may be going, yeah, right, but it is so simple. So I say you can pronounce both of the ingredients. And so that's what you're looking for is simplicity. But the power in what those 2 ingredients can do when gone through the right Asea protocols, amazing. And it's just going by, I had a conversation about this last week with someone, and they said, it's too simple to be true. And I said, well, I have judged for myself. And that too simple to be true helped my father to live. And so I am very much on simple is best.
Right, exactly.
You know, what is so cool, you can actually go into our library and look at all the ingredients in our products, and they've been graded by the Environmental Working Group, the EWG, which you may or may not be familiar with, but if you ever have heard of the Dirty Dozen, when you're talking about vegetables and things like that, they're the people who put those lists out, and they're the ones who grade all of the products for their safety. So ours are very, very safe. Plus we have the 5 stars from Dermatest in Germany, which is a incredibly stringent board that overlooks these things. So our products are safe and they're effective, which is what you want. You know, when you're going to spend good money, you want something that's going to work. Yeah. So
now here, Carmen, can you go ahead and explain for the people that have not heard of this before? Again, salt water from Salt Lake City is like, right.
Yeah.
But can you go ahead and explain why salt water does this when it's altered the way that Asea does, and why? How do you explain it to people?
Sure. Simply. Okay. So I try to explain things simply, and I use a lot of word pictures. So here's kind of the basic gist. The basic form of life is a cell, okay? We're all created from about 75 trillion, 80 trillion cells. Cells at their simplest form come together to form organs. Organs come together to form systems, and systems come together to form people, okay? Now, if those cells do not communicate, I would imagine that things might not get taken up the ladder, okay? Things done right. It's the same thing in your house, Jim. When you and Ann don't communicate, right? Yeah, yeah. Same thing in all of our homes. Communication is key, right? We always talk about this, communication problems. We've got communication problems at the office. So communication is key. Well, it's the same thing for our cells. And so our cells are created beautifully. They have organelles inside, so small organelles that do a job. And so I often say if my hand is a cell and my ring is this organelle called the mitochondria, I remember it because mitochondria are very mighty. They are powerhouses of our cells, and they come from our mother's RNA. So I always remembered it in school, the mighty mitochondria from mama. Okay. And so those mitochondria create these redox molecules. That sounds fancy. Redox is just a contracted word, reduction and oxidation, and it's basic biochemistry. But when we put the two words together, it's called redox. Oxidation, you've probably heard of. Oxidation is rust. Okay, so when a nail is in the environment, it rusts. Okay, for simple terms. Now, you've heard of free radicals, bad, right? Unopposed free radicals, unbalanced free radicals. Well, reductants are required to balance that equation. Now, some oxidation is necessary, but reduction is necessary for balancing this out. And in fact, some oxidations are how do we say, spurred on, necessary, just a necessary part. But the balance is the big part in our life. I'll try not to get rabbit trailed here. And so when we talk about what do these redox molecules do, they thought that they didn't do anything in the early years. They do nothing. Okay. Well, as time has passed, the scientists have figured out, no, these little molecules actually help our cells to detect, repair, and replace sick and damaged cells. They're the communication line for all of our cells. And I mean, we are living beings because our cells live and die, live and die, live in hair, you know, nails, we have to clip them off. When do our nails stop growing? Well, they don't, okay? And skin, we slough off skin every 28 days, okay? And so when we consider what these redox molecules do, they simply communicate with other cells to help the other cells do their job, okay? Now, as we age, some of these mitochondria may not work as well as efficiently, thus reducing some of our capabilities to produce our own redox molecules, okay? There are trillions of redox molecules. The early one was nitric oxide, okay? Well, it wasn't named, but our friend Mr. Nobel, who the Nobel Peace Prize is named after, he found this substance that did bad things, okay? Nitroglycerin, okay? But they also found in science that it worked in the body and it dilated blood vessels. Nitroglycerin that you take when you have chest pain, okay, is nitric oxide, which dilates the blood vessels. Back then, they knew it worked, but they didn't know how it worked, but they didn't prevent them from using it. In fact, Mr. Nobel himself had a chest pain, had a heart ailment, and guess what they gave him? His own invention. How crazy. But again, they didn't know how it worked. They just knew that it worked. Okay? And so the same thing.
Like aspirin, you know?
Yeah, same thing. There's so many things in medicine because, you know, in medicine, it takes 30, 40 years. 30, 40 years before something is accepted mainstream. Look at the antibiotic history. You know, how many people died that could have been saved from antibiotic treatments? Well, a lot of people. How many were saved during the time where we didn't really know why they worked, but we knew that they worked and oh, let's try it? Okay, same thing. So at its simplest state, redox molecules help your cells communicate to do what they're supposed to do anyway. Now, how that came to be, you should watch the Genesis video of Asea, a beautiful story. But salt and water put through a patented process creates redox molecules. Well, that sounds hokey. I know, I thought the same thing. I laughed at it too. Okay, I sure did. But when I took it down to the science, I knew the science. And it's the same principles. So redox laws, redox principles, they're the same principles that apply to photosynthesis. So sun energy coming into a plant, creating a bloom or a fruit. And it's the same principles and laws that apply for engineering and mechanical engineering, gas, moving a car, that there are redox principles that apply there. And so even though we can't see this happening in our body, it is so, so important. And I kind of explain it to people like this, yeah, the label says sodium chloride in water. Go ahead and say it's from Salt Lake City and let's laugh at it, okay? But the point here is what the process went through. If you bought a cake, okay, your label would say ingredients. It wouldn't say cake, right? It would say flour and water and sugar and blah, blah, blah. But the front label would say, I don't know, German chocolate cake, I don't know, something chocolate cake, right? Same difference here, okay? So in a nutshell and simply, that's how I explain redox.
I love it. Talk about simple and safe. That's
Simple
simple and safe. Yeah. Totally non-toxic. So
non-toxic. It's what your body makes anyway.
It's what? Yeah, what
What
your body makes.
Anyway.
Yeah, we're just pumping up the volume, right? You talk about a cell phone and it's like extra bars for your cells.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
But Carmen, did it take what happened to your dad to make you an absolute believer? Because we talk to our people and you've got to believe. Is that when you got your massive, deeply rooted, anchored, this is real because of what it did to your dad?
Yeah.
It took that.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, I think last time we spoke, it really resonates with me that this was brought into my life to do something with it for so many other people, right? I was not the dire straight sick one. It helps me. I take it every day, okay? But had I said no, my story would be very different. Had I said no. So you think about every person knows 2,000 people. Had I said no, my 2,000 wouldn't even get a chance. By me, right? By me. And so, but yeah, that it really took my dad because he had been sick for 4 months at that point. And at the time that we decided to start using it, the main doctor came in and told my mom that he has had a 10% chance of living. And, at the time, the picture of my dad, 72 years old at the time, he was in a chair with a feeding tube in his nose. He did not know who we were, where he was, who he was, or what was going on. And my mom called and said, they've told me 10% chance of living and they're not going to be able to do anything else. What do you want to do? What are we going to do? And I said, Mom, that blue bottle. And she said, really? I said, how do you feel? She had been taking it for a couple weeks. She goes, I'm sleeping better. I just feel more alert. I feel better. And I said, okay, well, we'll never know. And I have a sign in my closet in there and it says, live with no regrets. And I live with no regrets because what I know is living with what if can kill you. And we talk about stress on the body. But living with no regrets is how I live. And I talked to her and she agreed. Of course, she was a power of attorney. And so we simply brought it into his room and she started putting it on a little swab in his mouth that she was, wetting his mouth with. And the molecules are absorbed in the mouth and the esophagus primarily. So that's how we started. And we started putting the gel. We put the gel on his belly, on his neck, on his carotids, front and back, on every part of him, all down his spine, because it's do or die, literally. It's do or die. Now, he's not afraid to die, okay? But, live with no regrets. Let's put it to the test. And so in a week's time, he ate 3 full meals. And got his feeding tube out. He had not eaten 1 bite for 6 weeks. In 7 more days, he walked 250 feet. He was only asked to walk 200, but he walked 250 feet unassisted. That was in May. He had not done that since early February. And in about 6 weeks after that, he walked into his home. He is alive and well today. Last time I got to tell his story, he watched live. And he will tell you he still takes it. And somebody asked how much he was taking. It just varied, honestly. And I can't give you an exact amount because my mom was in charge of that. But we rubbed a lot of the gel because the gel has 2 times the Redox molecules in it as the liquid. Okay. So we did that multiple times. I mean, tube after tube after tube after tube. And today he takes, I think he takes 12 ounces a day, 8 to 12. You know, he'll tell me every now and then he forgets, but 8 to 12 ounces a day right now. And he'll tell you, the only thing he can tell you, he's grateful for it, but it helped his hair grow back.
You know, I thought women were the vain ones. That's hilarious.
Hey, well, you were talking about the facial stuff earlier. Trust me, guys want
I know, poor Lee.
as well.
Poor
You
Lee.
say you don't, you're lying. But Carmen, let me ask you real quick. And Lee, I don't know if you got anything you want to bring up real quick.
Go ahead and ask your question.
A lot of people get on Redox and they may go, but Dr. Keith, you had your experience, but I didn't. What do you tell them?
Yeah, I say use mine. Use my story. Use my
but
story.
is it working on me if I don't feel it?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So recognize everybody has a certain amount before they're going to start feeling something, but that doesn't mean that it's not working on the cellular level. Can you feel your individual cells? No. Okay. So it's kind of like filling up your bucket. At some point, we have to, you have to keep filling in the bucket before you see the line coming up to the top and it overflowing. Okay. I say keep taking it, because if you have filled out your little symptom questionnaire that comes in your box, I tell everybody to do that because the brain forgets from where it came. And so if you're a month or 2 down the road and you're like, I don't feel anything, you should pull out your form and really look at that. It might wake you up to how you used to be, because the brain, it will totally forget where it came, and you'll only focus on what's not fixed yet, right? That's just human nature, right? It takes a whole lot more work to be positive than it does to be negative, right? And so we have to recognize that. But I just tell people, keep going. Give it a good 90 to 120 days. And some people do require more than the 2 ounces twice a day. But, that's for you to decide how you want to do that. But just because you don't have a major like my dad or some of these other stories doesn't mean that it's not helping you.
Can I bring up one, and then Lee, I promise I'll turn it over to you. One more real quick. Then I want all 3 of you to answer this one. But Carmen, when you saw this, and then you heard maybe for some, how's it delivered? Network marketing? Oh, come on. How did you deal with that?
Okay. Well, I'm very open, and so I don't really judge that. But here's what I have replied with. Number 1, I am not a Fortune 50 business person, and I don't think I ever will be in this lifetime. But if the Fortune 50 businessman named Vertus Norton thought that this was the best avenue to get this into the marketplace, then I'm going to trust him on that.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's
was really well said.
video is the Genesis video, but then there's a longer video that Tyler Norton did. And I'm an ex-stockbroker, so that meant a lot to me. So you didn't have any lead. Did you have any hang-ups with networking?
I did a lot.
Because you're wounded. You're kind of wounded from your past, right? I'm not even serious.
Exactly. Yeah, I came wounded, and I tell everybody this was like a chicken bone in my throat.
A big one, not a little one.
It was sideways.
Yeah.
And it was a tough one to swallow. And I think that, to just segue off of of what Carmen was saying, there's a really important reason why this is in networking right now. Had this remained in the track that it was being developed to become, it was intended to become a pharmaceutical. That was the original idea, which means that the FDA would have cleared it for a one or maybe two on-label indication, which means you can make medical claims about one or two things that it had been proven, to work for, and everything else that it would affect would be what we call off-label. We would not be allowed to speak to it, even though some might, but it's still off-label. Well, when you think about what this really is, back to the saltwater chemistry, this is the epigenetics of life. This is below DNA. This is about genetic expression. It's how the genes express themselves. What can we signal them to do, and how we can respond to our environment. And so this plays at such a base level that all cells in the body are affected. That's why we've been talking here about hair and skin and bones, and we could talk about all kinds of maladies that we experience in the body. And the real answer is, well, does it work? Well, yeah, it works on all cells. I like Carmen's idea of we can't feel our cells, at least most of them. Sometimes pain cells, pain might produce something, but the reason why this is in networking is that it's flipped it to the supplement side, where we can't make the claim. We're not really interested in doing the random controlled trials, because that would pull us or suck us back into dangerous territory governmentally, in terms of the institutions that regulate this. And we just kind of let, as they used to say, we'll let the science catch up with this. But what that allows us to talk to are all these wonderful stories, and there's a reason why they work. Yes, it works. It always works, because this is about gene signaling. And not everybody can feel their genes signal. Right as we're sitting here, we're not feeling all of the antioxidant genes being signaled. Shall I get deep and say by the NRF2 transcription factor? I mean, that's where the science we could dive into that if we wanted, but that's where this lives. And as Maureen said earlier, what we're really doing is we're refilling the gas tank. We make these in an industrial laboratory setting. They're bioidentical, and we're really replenishing or filling up the cell with what our mitochondria are not making as much of as we get older. And that's what restores the cell to its original native capability, that creates this responsiveness to what our genes would want to do at all times. And so, yeah, it always works.
Can you explain bioidentical for those of us that aren't medical?
Carmen, I'll let you handle that. That's functional medicine.
Okay, yeah. So bioidentical is identical to your biology. Okay, so it is something that is made outside the body, but identical to what your body makes. Okay, so like in our world, bioidentical hormones or synthetic hormones. That's just a quick example that comes to my mind. But we have, synthetic drugs, we have synthetic supplements, and then we have I don't even call Asea a supplement. I call it a bio-replenisher.
Yeah.
And because that's really what it's doing. It's a bio-replenisher. People say, oh, it's a supplement. No. It is beyond a supplement. Like you said, it is at the genetic level. This is what we have to work on. And epigenetics, everything around you affects expression of your genetics, every stress you feel, sleep, food, things you watch. I mean, it all comes down to affecting your cells and your genes. And then over time, it's the expression of those genes on processes that make good or bad things happen, right? Those diseases, right? That come from genetic overexpression, underexpression, et cetera. And that's what's beautiful about Asea is we have the gene study that shows that we have 15 pathways that are affected in a good way, including our NF2, right? And it's that study, I was like, oh, drop the mic, done. Like, that's awesome.
there's two things that I want to go back to, that chicken bone thing. There's two things that made this work for me. And one, it had to be the science. I'm OCD. I'm a past president of an American Academy for Oral Systemic Health. I mean, I kind of live in that limelight a little bit, and it had to work. This had to be real. It had to meet that criteria for me. But both Carmen and Maureen made a comment about their own practices earlier about how the number of people that they could affect through their efforts was magnified and multiplied because of becoming involved in this networking, this friendship marketing model. And when you think about this, you know, this is something, Jim, you could talk about as well, is we spend our whole lifetime trying to accumulate money so that we can retire someday. And we do it in a vehicle that requires time. It's called compound interest. And there's a lot of hiccups that can take away the principal along the way and reduce, you know, what we're able to compound. But this networking idea is a vertical compounding. It's a generational leverage. And when I tell somebody who tells somebody, or tells two people who tells two people, and we've all seen the models, and you know, we've had the circles drawn out and so forth, but the model itself is an accurate one, but to me, it requires the right company. It requires the right product that I can be passionate about. It requires something that affects every single person on the planet, because every person on the planet has a cell. We're all in the same boat. And so when you combine those and realize that I can vertically integrate and I can create an asset now, which is, it's an asset equivalent of an income stream that represents having a certain amount of money in the bank. And so I can kind of double play this to where I can accomplish some of my personal financial means in an accelerated way, and at the same time accelerate and multiply the number of people I can share this with who can benefit from it. And from a provider's point of view, you know, as I practice with my patients, it's like I can only see so many people. But through this, over time, I can affect thousands of people. And so, you know, that's where I come in. And that was what made the chicken bone go down. And so
That's great.
Well, Barbie Bassett, you know, calls it social e-commerce. So you're just going to be able to reach a whole lot more people, like you said, by sharing it this way. I was thinking about Ann Louise Gittleman, how she shares, which is also what I always have taught, is being proactive. She calls it, you know, lifestyle medicine, even though this is not any, you know, a medicine. But, you know, she teaches about epigenetics as well. And she bathes in Renew 28 every night. But, you know, she says our DNA is not our destiny. And if we can just get the 20s, the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds to do this when they're younger for prevention, not that we're making claims that it's going to keep you from getting such and such, but if you can just take hold of your own health and just take that minimum dosage, if you're younger, you can get away with the lesser amount. That way you're not waiting till you get to the hospital and, oh, we just found this on your liver or wherever. If people could just see that, and I wish we knew about it, you know, 10 years ago, but we didn't. We learned about it 5 years ago. But like your dad, Jim wasn't as extreme, but it saved Jim's life. I don't even want to think of what Jim would have been like at that much consumption of narcotics, what his liver today would have been like. And, you know, in the last couple of years, he's lost 67 pounds. And I know that the redox signaling played a part in healing the adrenal glands and healing the areas that were affected by the meds. And it helped him in losing weight. It just didn't magically come off, but it did come off. And I know Dr. Ward talks about redox and exercise and water consumption. All of those keys play together, make it work so much better. So,
Carmen, can you talk about glutathione a little bit? I will address towards the end, Lee, what you talked about the financial world. I'll hit on that on the back end, but we hear a lot about glutathione. Could you synthetic, food-based versus what my body makes?
Right. So You know, glutathione is the master antioxidant in the body, and we make it, but we also have to recycle what we make. And so there are some people who genetically cannot recycle what they make. And there are some people who genetically cannot make as much as what they need. And so when I help people with glutathione issues, most of the time it's related to detoxification. And so it is the master antioxidant, but the master detoxifier. And it primes our immune system. It helps the white cells to do what they're supposed to do and fight infection. But I think a beautiful picture of what glutathione is glutathione is actually the knight in shining armor for the mitochondria. And remember, we know about mitochondria and redox molecules to protect the mitochondria from things that could damage it. Okay, so glutathione is huge in our body's ability to maintain health and longevity, because, you know, it's the biggest thing that can help us detoxify and protect our mitochondria, and regulated by, again, we talked about our NRF2 pathway, our NRF2 pathway, and our SOD, superoxide dismutase enzyme activity, which all of that is upregulated through the pathways that we know from the genetic study that Asea affects. And that, again, game changer. Dr. Samuelson talks about how that Asea increases your production of glutathione by up to 500%. That's huge. And it's your own native glutathione. So it's not external, it's not a synthetic. I mean, here's the deal. If you have poor digestion, okay, so I get on this a little bit with my patients. If you have poor digestion, you're not only not digesting your food, but you're not digesting your medications or your supplements, okay? And your food has to be broken down into a small chemical component before your intestine can absorb it and then assimilate it into your cells. So this is a whole big process that just because the food disappears does not mean, oh, I'm nourished. Oh, no, it doesn't. And this is where the redox molecules come in and play again, is because it's working, they're absorbed in the mouth, painless, okay? And they are working from the cellular DNA level to do the things that you're trying to make all these other things do from the outside, but you're not well enough in your GI system, so gut health, to really get what you need from that. That's why I see your via line sitting over there. That's why the via line is so important too, is, you know, I love the analogy where building the house and all of the materials to build the house are sitting in your bottles there, Jim, but where's your contractor, right? It's in the big blue bottle, right? So yeah, that's it. Somebody says, what markers are you looking for in the blood to see improvements from Asea CRP? Oh, sure, CRP could be one. Marker of inflammation, any marker of inflammation. So, Mark, there are many markers of inflammation on labs. Cholesterol is an inflammatory marker. Blood sugar, hemoglobin A1C, C-reactive protein. There's so many markers that indicate that we are inflamed. But just because the marker, or thyroid too, just because the marker is not elevated doesn't mean that there may not be something going on beneath. And just because the marker is not outside of the lab range high, you know, if you have a lab range of normal from 2 to 2,000, how do you know which spot in there your body feels best at, right? So there are lots of lab markers we could look at. That's a great question.
And
So I would say get some labs before you start Asea, and then get your labs 6 months in. Don't do it in between, because you might get a little spooked. Because remember, I'll go back to my sweeping the floor analogy. If we're sweeping out the garage and dust flies up, okay, how much dust flies up depends on how wide your broom is. Well, the width of the broom is the dose of your Asea, okay? the broom sweeping up the dust. The dust is you might feel worse before you feel better. Okay? You might, but guess what? The dust always settles, right? It might get on your head, but that's okay. The dust is always going to settle. And so if you go and get labs too soon, your expectations may not be met. And you may have worsening numbers. Okay, so then you're going to go, well, that doesn't work. No, no, no. Contrary, it is working.
Yeah.
It is working.
We do that all the time, especially the cholesterol lipid panel.
Right.
Yep.
It was the first thing that changed for me. So great analogy.
And
So
they
just
need to give enough time. Mhm.
Can it hurt anything? Can it hurt me?
It's a good question. It's native to your body.
Yep.
The answer is no. It can't hurt you.
Just might help you, huh?
Just might help you if you just might give it a try. And if you don't want to try the liquid, rub the gel on, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No side effects, just side benefits. So
And giving,
Yeah.
giving it enough time. 90% see that change in 90 days. So it's not like a magic potion, you know, oh, didn't work. No, you didn't go long enough, or you didn't take enough for whatever you may have you're going through.
But what I find amazing is that it works on plants.
Oh, yeah. And animals.
Animals.
You know, gee, get a couple plants and get water, Asea, and salt water and do your own little quick 5-day study, or get a cut rose and get 3 cut roses and put them in Asea, water, and salt water. And you'll know in 5 days. And I don't think, now Maureen, can you answer, can a plant have a placebo effect?
no, and neither can your dog or cat either.
Or
So,
child, correct?
yeah. Well, I don't know about kids. They can be pleasers. But placebo effect. People say, well, what if it is a placebo effect? I'm like, well, what if it is? It's not. It's not. And your dogs don't. If you use it for a plant or you use it for an animal, they have no expectation. They don't know what's going on. And so when you see them respond to it, you know that it's working at the cellular level. It's not that they've talked themselves into having a good response. But, and that point that you brought up, Carmen, about giving it enough time, or maybe it was you, Ann, it was 6 weeks. We were on the product. Now, all we had was the liquid back then. And on the back of the bottle, it says to take 2 ounces twice a day. So we did. And I didn't really have any medical things that I was dealing with. I was fluffy, but, that was about it. My husband had some issues, and we didn't know that if there was a challenge, or if you were our age, that it's probably better to take more. So it took 6 weeks to get our blessing. Now you can use the gel and get a much, much faster response. So we can have people have product experiences pretty quickly by doing the 3 and 5 or the Tyndall swipe, which we can discuss.
So when we make a statement that, and I heard Gary Samuelson made this statement that, well, will it work for this or that? And again, we're not making any claims. But when Gary Samuelson said, well, Carmen, does your issue deal with any cells? Honestly, how absurd does that sound? But yet, it's true.
But yet, it's true. Yep, absolutely. Someone puts in here, it seems like healthy people feel things quicker, Fritz. I like to speak to that for a second. And I would just say, healthy, what's your definition? Number one, what's the definition of healthy? And then number two, there is a degree for people who have been on their health journey longer that we just know our body. My husband jokes, he's like, she's the only woman that I know who can smell something different or taste something different and the next day know why her big toe hurts, okay? And so I'm in tune with my body to the point where I notice small changes. But we usually don't know how bad we feel until we feel better, okay? And this is why I hate this 4-letter F word called fine. Okay, I feel fine. Okay, that's hawk. Okay, because you feel fine for what you know, right? But once you start making small changes, oh, wow, I didn't realize, for me, I didn't realize I had a headache at 2 o'clock every day. I was just doing this like a little robot, right? I didn't realize that I wasn't sleeping that great. And I didn't realize that until I slept much better because I was young. I was a, whippersnapper straight out of residency and all this stuff and just go, right? And so to a certain degree, you're right. Some healthy people can feel it faster simply because they are tuned in. They are fine tuned in. But take my dad, take his story. He was very not, he was very not, I mean, 10% chance of living, not healthy. And this filled his tanks enough that he is with us today to tell about it.
Yeah.
Maureen, you lost your mom. I lost my mother to the bad cell problem. We lost Ann's mom to a bad cell problem. And I've lost some really good friends to that. And Carmen, when you say I don't want to live with any regret, what about when somebody, and I know we're going a little bit long, we're going to make up for last week. But what if somebody says no? How do you respond?
That's okay. That's okay. You do you.
Okay.
That's okay. Because you know what? Part of our job is to educate. The biggest part of our job is to educate. What we do not do is just pester. No, I mean, no chance of a win there, right? But it's educating and not being attached to the outcome.
Right.
Right? Your job is to say how it's helped you. Their job is to decide if it's for them or not. I really loved something Tyler said. Sorry, here's my little notebook from convention. Sorry, I got to read it because, I don't want to misquote Tyler. He said, perhaps the opportunity could give you the ability to scratch the itch of your own potential.
Yeah.
Whether that is making a human impact or a financial impact.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it scratched my itch for the desperation I was in for my dad. Right? And for me, it's scratched the itch of helping because that's just what we're supposed to do. But when you can detach yourself from the outcome and let them decide for them and just answer the questions along the way, gently and there's going to be questions that I don't know the answer to. I don't know, somebody asked earlier, I don't know how big every redox molecule is. I would imagine nanometers is probably too big, but I don't know that answer, right?
That's a God question, right?
That's a God question. Yeah, I like that.
That's because it's a God molecule.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Dr. Ward says it takes thousands of redox signaling.
Hundreds of thousands, millions.
Just for a cat scratch. So
Not Maureen's cats, though. You got monster cats, Maureen. Yours bite you.
Yeah, they have big teeth, big claws.
Let me add one more thought, Jim, and that is,
No.
we have this. I will. Thank you. We have this mentality in our culture, and it's ubiquitous everywhere. That when it's basically the drug culture. We take a pill, and I expect to feel something. I expect a result to happen, and we weigh. Even with herbals, we have the same idea that when I take an herbal, it will have an effect, and I will feel it. And that's what's misleading about this. And part of the education that Carmen's talking about there is we have to help people understand a little bit that that's not what this is about. This isn't a nutritional product. This isn't the A, B, C vitamins and the herbs and the phytochemicals and so forth. This is a signaling molecule. It turns things on. It turns things off. And that's different. That's why this is a new category. And you can't compare this with anything else. And if you're judging and weighing the results or outcome based on our paradigm, our worldview, that it has to do something, because we've all heard this. Well, I stopped it because it wasn't working. I didn't feel anything. And sometimes we need to be careful we don't set people up for that fall. And that's why these conversations are helpful, because how you educate people matter. It could save their life but that we didn't educate them well.
Yeah, exactly.
And Lee, we're symptom driven. You know, in medicine, we're symptom driven. They come in with something, a complaint, and we look for a medicine or something, procedure, whatever, that's going to fix that. What we're doing here is getting to the foundation. We're getting to the root, kind of like a functional medicine doctor. We're trying to figure out, you know, what is at the basis of what's going on. And it really goes back to the cell. You know, before you have healthy heart or healthy lungs, you have to have healthy heart cells, healthy lung cells. And so by giving these molecules and increasing that cellular communication, we're allowing the body to do what it was made to do. It's got innate wisdom from God. It knows how to take care of itself if it has the right tools. So I love what you were saying about some people don't feel it. And you know, we were even talking about younger people earlier, and it occurred to me that, you know, when you're young, you have no idea. And we go through these stages without really giving it a whole lot of thought, you know, but I can remember when I used to be able to stay up all night, like in college, partying, right? And I mean, you know, you get up the next day and you could do it.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in your, like, maybe in your 30s, you just don't bounce back as well, you know, or maybe if you stayed up too late, you're leaning in the shower, waiting for the Irish Spring to wake you up, or the coffee to do it. You know what I'm saying? And then it just gets worse. What if you started taking these molecules when you were younger? What if you never went through that? What a gift would that be if you kept your youthful energy through the whole thing, if you didn't have degenerative diseases? I mean, I don't know. We've only been around for 10 years, but think of the possibilities, right?
Oh, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
And that's a what if again, you know, what if, you know, what's the worst thing? What if it doesn't help? But what if it does? Are you going to not even give it a opportunity? You know, so yeah, we are so symptom driven, Maureen, and Lee, you are absolutely right. A pill is a pill, whether it's an herb, you know, it's expectation of the pill, right? And last I checked, expectations are planned resentments. I'll say it again. Expectations are planned resentments. Write that down.
Yes.
Expectations are planned resentments. It doesn't matter if it's in your marriage, if it's at your job, if it's the scientist, you know, asking all these questions, whatever. Expectations are planned resentments. And that is a responsibility of self. And so it is not my duty in all circumstances to resolve every one of their expectations to the T. It's just we have to explain it to the point where, you know, we know soundly what it is. Someone said, how do you explain it? I explain it just like I did earlier, what I talked about, the cells signaling and mitochondria. That's what I tell my patients. I've probably told 5 of them the same story today. You tell it the way that you understand it and feel it. You don't have to be a doctor to do this. You don't have to be anything. I mean, and that's the beautiful thing of social network marketing, social marketing. You know, Barbie says it best, like you said, Anne. But it levels the playing field. Because why? Well, you always have all of these other experts to help you along the way. All you have to do is tell people about it and get them to a platform where they can learn more and get their questions addressed.
Well, Lee and I are gonna come together and do something soon. But you talk about what if, right? And I've got an old investment book.
Oh.
But what if I live?
Like live beyond your means.
Huh?
live beyond your means, your retirement money? Or?
It's the guide for baby boomers, but it's the coming American retirement crisis. Okay, guys, I'm putting my brokerage hat on. The mass majority of people are not prepared for retirement. The mass majority, and I did that. And for me to work with someone back when I was a broker in the bank, you had to have money. And the mass majority of people don't have any money, nor do they have the time, is what Lee talked about with the compounding interest, but you have to have time. And the mass majority of people, boo-boos happen along the way, and you end up spending your money before it has time to grow. And I wish I would have known this, but I know God took me down this path to take me through 30 years of utter frustration of trying to coach and work with people on doing estate planning, you know, planning for the emergencies, long-term care, disability, because you can't protect everything. But the one gift that we have that I always say it's the other side of the coin is the opportunity. And that's what Lee and I are going to do a little bit of talking soon on this exact topic, on approaching people to where Vertus Norton had no choice but to do this. And that is to our benefit. And if we don't share it, Carmen, you say it well, it's because you're selfish.
Yeah.
And I'll say shame on you if you don't. And don't worry about what they say to you. That's their response. I can't be held responsible for that. But if we do it in a loving, compassionate, God-fearing way, and just let people know what this is and how this is this is the true once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I did a lot of IPOs, initial public offerings. I've never seen anything like this. You're never going to find something that helps everything alive, can't hurt you, can help you. I love when you say that, Carmen. Can't hurt you, might just help you. You know, well, you want to know two things. Can it hurt me and can it help me? And no one else has it. And no toxicity. But when I did investments, unknowingly, people got hurt. Maureen, can this hurt you?
Nope.
Carmen, can Redox Molecules hurt you?
Nope.
Lee, is there any chance that these molecules can hurt you?
Somebody said to me that, well, water, you could take too much water and die. Like you could overdose on water, and it's like, okay, but water is not Redox.
All right.
So it can't hurt you, can it?
Yeah, we're not made of water. We're made of saline. No,
so,
it can't.
But even too much saline can harm you, can't it?
Well, you could drown in a bathtub of it, yes.
But you can't get harmed. But guys, you don't come up with anything ever, and then having the opportunity to be able to make an income from this instead of pharmaceutical or big corporation. Big corporations always gobble these things up and you never hear from them again, ever. And because one man and one family said no, we have the most amazing opportunity. I'm going to ask you all to get back to the person that invited you to these calls. We are here to educate and to validate with medical people. And Carmen, thank you so much from the bottom of our heart.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
Maureen, you're awesome. Lee, now next week we do have Dr. David Silverman. We've got 4 doctors lined up. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3. We got 5 doctors lined up. We've got Dr. Michael, Dr. Hoffman, and Dr. Walker.
Awesome.
For the next 4 weeks, we're here to help validate this because these doctors are not going to do this if it's fake, silly salt water from Salt Lake City. Get back to the person that invited you to these calls and get the product. The best way to get rid of all apprehension is, how do you do that, Carmen? Get on it, right?
Yeah.
Do it. So guys, Maureen?
Oh, I just wanted to, people are asking about how much to give to their animals. Listen, I just pour it in a bowl, and my dogs.
Not a metal bowl.
Not a metal bowl. It has to be a glass or a plastic bowl. But my animals will drink what they want. And, you know, sometimes they'll drink the whole bowl. Sometimes they'll just take, you know, a few sips. But they're very in tune with their bodies, so they will know what they need. You don't really have to worry about it. And it's amazing because they will drink it. For the most part, you don't even have to force it on them. They'll go over and drink it themselves. So
Now, do you drink what's left over?
I do. I share. No, you know, no, you know, I had to go to the pouches because if I had, especially Figgy, my one cat, if I had a glass of Asea and I left it unattended, there would be a cat head in there drinking it. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, the pouches really help with that. But you guys, it is like 20 after 9.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
We got carried away with Carmen Keith. And there's so much that we wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about.
Okay.
So you got to come back.
Always the address.
Okay, and I told you one of these days we've got some associates out in El Paso. We're going to meet you face
I would
to
love
face.
it.
We're going to come over and see
We'd
you.
like to
I
come.
would love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
No
Bye,
action
Bye,
today.
everybody.
We already
Have a
did it. So
great
thank you so much.
Have a great weekend.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Lee.
Thanks, Carmen. Thanks, everybody. Great job.
Thank you, Maureen. Love you guys. Thank you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.